Affinity.
Yeah, now, there are some little differences between these Affinity decks. Vipin has 4 Galvanic Blast and 4 Thoughtcast for a whole lot more spell action, whereas Mike has just 2 Thoughtcast and 2 Galvanic Blast, meaning that he's got room for more, what is this, Master? Yeah, 2 Master of Ethereums and a Welding Jar.
Yeah, Master, I know a card that's going to be very powerful in the Affinity Mirror. But the players are underway, so we're going to go ahead and start there. Sigrist was on the play, but he is certainly not the one getting the early advantage out. He had an Inkmoth Nexus. Chackonal plays Darksteel Citadel, Memnite, Springleaf Drum, and Signal Pest.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what are the keys to these Affinity Mirrors game 1? I mean, obviously after Sideboard, there's some really high-impact cards players gain access to, but the game 1, I mean, what are the deciding factors? Is it just a tempo thing? Is it about heavy hitters?
Well, I think a lot of it, my guess would be a lot of it has to do with heavy hitters. Sigrist is the first person to get one of those down. He has a Steel Overseer. But it looks like, I mean, it's possible, I would think that it's just about cranial plating. And we're going to go ahead and see that Vipin casts a plating. Thanks to Mox Opal is able to equip it. He's already off to the races, swinging in for a full 7 damage with Memnite.
Now, what do you think about this choice to equip the plating to the Memnite? He does 1 extra damage if Sigrist doesn't block, but it does give him the option to trade his Overseer for a whole lot of life.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like Vipin actually, that to me would suggest that he actually wants the block, right? If he, if he was just trying to race, he would have put it on the Signal Pest. And Sigrist will oblige. He goes ahead and trades that and stays at 2020. I mean, you said that as though, like, so it's possible that Vipin, he wants to play a more control game as opposed to just straight racing there?
It may have also been some amount of greed where he's like, oh, I just want to get that extra damage in. I don't think he's going to block.
Yeah, Vipin, we see in his hand, is a pair of Thoughtcasts. So certainly he'll be able to reload here as he has access to double blue. But Sigrist, with the Arcbound Ravager and a Vault Scourge, now has the upper hand on creatures at the very least.
Yeah, this is actually, a Vault Scourge with an Arcbound Ravager is the type of thing that could create a very powerful race. If you throw a few more artifacts down, it is very possible for the Vault Scourge to end up in a giant Baneslayer.
All right, so we see Arcbound Ravager is the play for Chackonal. This is, so now an Arcbound Ravager on both sides of the table. These were the kind of matchups when you had 2 Arcbound Ravagers and you had cards like Disciple of the Vault. I remember that made the Affinity Mirror all about these math situations.
Yeah, we're going to get into some really complicated combat steps as a result of the amount of activated abilities that Affinity is capable of doing. And they have a real lack of ways to deal with each other's creatures game 1. So we're going to get into some real complicated math.
All right, so we see that Signal Pest picks up Cranial Plating. It's going to go ahead and swing in. Michael has the option to trade the Pest with the Vault Scourge. We'll see whether or not he exercises that option.
And he does.
Yeah.
Now, this Cranial Plating, while it is having a big impact, it hasn't actually accomplished all that much for Vipin as a result of no life link and no creatures getting through. He's got some slightly better trades, but hasn't actually been able to change all that much. Now, what are we hoping to see, or what is, I guess, Mike hoping to do beyond just commit more artifacts to the board for his Ravager?
Yeah, well, I think he wants to commit more artifacts. There's this, I was going to say he wants to get parity, and a Cranial Plating of his own will begin to establish that. Both players now with Plating and Ravager, we see a pretty symmetric board state. I want to say that, like, a Vault Scourge can break this, possibly even an Etched Champion.
Well, so I think Vipin has a big edge right now because he has 3 artifact mana sources, whereas Michael has 0. As a result, Michael's Cranial Plating is barely an Unholy Strength, and Vipin's will kill Michael in 2 hits.
Yeah, I like that Vipin he also has Thoughtcast here, and you said before he's playing 4 Thoughtcasts to Michael's 2. He's going to have hit plays like this more often, and he certainly is stocking up on resources here.
See, now he's going to even, further his artifact lead and get to a spot where he has both Plating and Ravager taking advantage of having 9 artifacts.
So you see Signal Pest is made. Signal Pest goes ahead and taps to Springleaf Drum. Going to go ahead and make an additional mana. That equips Plating to Ravager. Ravager crashes in. It's a 1/1, but the Cranial Plating gives it 7 more, and that's a hit for 8. Michael is down to 10. And it does seem like he's just pushing his resource advantage. He has more artifacts. He has more Thoughtcasts. he just has more things.
And this is a really tough situation for Michael because he's facing lethal potentially from a few different creatures. It would only take a couple artifacts for Vipin to be actually able, representing. Is that life total correct? Is it actually 11?
Yeah, looks like we'll get a confirmation on this.
Because it should have been 8 damage just now.
Yeah.
But perhaps there was 1 point of Vault Scourge life gain that wasn't included, which I suspect is what happened here.
All right.
Either way, Vipin is very close to being able to actually threaten 11 points of damage, and with the Mox Opal and the Springleaf Drum, it is realistic to think that he could actually move the Cranial Plating instant speed to thwart any potential blocks.
Yeah, Michael with a Mox Opal of his own, but he is running low on cards. That's a problem that Vipin doesn't have. He has shifted over to the defensive. It almost seems like it's a matchup where the person who stops attacking first is the person who loses. Not that you get a choice in that. You're kind of forced him to stop to not attacking anymore. But I think Michael has become the defensive player, and we'll see if he can do much with that role.
Yeah, we're seeing the effects of being down 3-0 with artifact mana in the first 3 turns. That Mox Opal's helping him catch up, and a Thought Cost of his own is going to give him some more resources to work with. But he is definitely a little behind.
Yeah, I mean, it's strange. So Michael's actually on parity with cards. He has the same number of Thought Casts. They have the same number of Platings, the same number of Ravagers, But yet they've made some trades, but it still feels like Vipin's really far ahead.
And the life total is a huge thing because you're talking about Platings that could potentially hit for 11 at a time. The difference between hitting your opponent, in this case, 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, Michael could hit Vipin for 5 or 6. That's a 3-turn clock, whereas Vipin might be threatening lethal next turn. That's a huge difference.
How important is that Vault Scourge then? Michael traded away a Vault Scourge. It saved him a lot of life, so maybe that's still a great thing for it to do. But, lifelink certainly seems like something that could change the race. We see Michael actually going to continue racing, though. Arcbound Ravager does swing in. Right now, it's a 1-1 with +4, so that's a swing of 5, and it puts Vipin down to 12.
Yeah, I mean, a second Ravager isn't going to do you any good. All of Vipin's creatures fly with the exception of 1 Ravager. So you're not really getting anywhere by leaving a second Ravager home.
And the question is, can Vipin make this lethal? My guess is that is going to be he can. Let's see how many artifacts he can go ahead and get on that Ornithopter. It'll get a 1 from the Signal Pest, so he needs to have 10 artifacts in play to make this a lethal attack.
Right, he's real close already. But unless he can do 2 more, he might end up just a hair short.
Yeah, I think he has it. It looks like remember, he needs 1 mana to move the plating.
Yep.
He needs 1 mana to activate that Ink Moth. So he needs like 2 artifacts, 2 1-mana artifacts.
Yep. If he can play 2 more permanents to the board and still have the mana he needs to move the plating over, he should have this one locked up. Looks like he has at least a Signal Pest, but does he have anything else? He also might just be double checking. Just being super careful. He suspects he's got it, but he doesn't want to start playing his cards halfway until he's figured out his entire line.
Now, if he has a second Ravager, when a Ravager eats a Ravager, you get an extra counter, right?
You do.
So doesn't that mean, if he's short, he could play Ravager, have Ravager eat Ravager, Ravager eat everything else, swing Battle Cry, Ravager eats that too, throws everything on Ornithopter.
If he has a Ravager.
Yeah. So that is a line he can do. I think that's what we're going to see happen. So that is Ravager number 2. Yeah, one way to cheat your count on artifacts is when you stack a Ravager to a Ravager, you get an extra counter. And I think that's what we're going to see. Yep, there's 2 artifacts. It's Ravager and Signal Pest.
And we're going to see the plating move to the Ornithopter.
Yep.
He puts it on the Signal Pest, sure.
Now, doesn't he loses the damage by putting it on the Signal Pest?
Not necessarily. Because you don't actually have to eat the... I mean, he can still attack with the Ornithopter. You don't actually need to eat the...
Right. You don't have to... Yeah, you just need to throw both Ravagers onto one guy.
Yeah.
And that's enough.
Exactly. Now, you do lose a damage in that you could put the plating on the Ornithopter and then eat the Signal Pest if you were on the all-in Ravager plan. But I don't think it matters here. They have each other's deck lists. He knows he has a 1 position.
Yeah, so Ornithopter deals 1. Right now, Signal Pest, and this is where it's going to be really neat. You'd think it wouldn't be good enough because Signal Pest has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 damage. Not enough. However, he gets that extra counter off Ravager, so that's 3. So Signal Pest is now 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and the Ornithopter is number 11. It is exact. Vipin showing that he is no stranger to Affinity, finding that extra point for the exact lethal swing.
Yeah, I mean, Affinity gets a bad rep sometimes from people who will be like, oh, it does these unfair things, it's too forgiving sometimes, but really there's two extremely difficult elements of Affinity, one of which is that you have to, you very, very much have to fight for every point of damage. It's so easy to miss 1 point of damage and have that 1 point of damage cost you the match. The second element is, of course, the fact that the hate for Affinity is so powerful. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of familiarity, a lot of expertise to be able to navigate such a huge swath of hate and not knowing which ones people are going to throw at you.
All right. So while these players sideboard, we're going to bring you back into the booth. For those of you joining us, we are going to give away 6 months of Star City Games Premium. This is a trivia that we do. So this is during the top 4. I gave a trivia question last round. I asked players to identify a 5-mana legendary creature, which happened to be Kiki-Jiki Mirror Breaker. So this round, I'm going to throw it over to you. We give them a question, and we'll get correct answers for 6 months of premium.
All right. I saw some cards going around, some promo cards for an online game that Brian Kibler and the rest of the people who made Ascension and Richard Garfield were working on.
Sure.
What is the name of that online game? What is the name of that game? Tweet at us for SCG, at hashtag SCG Premium, at SCG Live, and let us know the name of the game. That there were some promo cards given out at this event, or at some of the events recently, and it's a game made by Brian Kibler, the rest of Stoneblade Games that worked on Ascension, and Richard Garfield.
All right. Looking forward to your answers. We will announce the winner at the end of all the top 4 matches. But that said, we will go back to our featured match between Michael Sigrist and Vipin Chackonal. They are currently sideboarding here. They have nearly identical sideboards. They both have Ancient Grudges. What else do they want to be doing?
Not really a whole lot. I mean, there's really not anything else that either one of them wants to be doing. The big advantage, of course, is that Michael has 3 Ancient Grudges, whereas Vipin has only 2.
Yeah. Cards like Dismember, Pinpoint Removal, is strong or is not strong in the matchup?
It's not going to be that great for them. I mean, it's good if you ever hit Steel Overseer, but it's not particularly effective against Etch Champion, Arcbound Ravager, Master of Ethereum, or Cranial Plating. I mean, it's possible you could bring it in as a playable if you just think some of the other cards are just worse enough, but I think you just want to keep the core engine as strong as possible and mostly just bring in some grudges.
All right, so both players boarding here. Doesn't, both already on the shuffle. Doesn't look like it's, I think you're absolutely right in that it's a pretty quick sideboard for the players.
Yeah, search your sideboard for Ancient Grudge, move her on in.
So that's that. One thing I wonder about the Affinity Mirror, I kind of wonder which cards are important here. If you could choose to have a card in your starting hand here, what's up at the top of the list?
Ancient Grudge.
So the one card out of the board ends up being the most relevant card.
As is so often the case, the graveyard, the sideboard hate is very, very, very powerful in Modern, and Affinity is definitely one deck where the hate against it is the best card you could possibly hope to draw.
Right. And that Ancient Grudge, because it's kind of a blanket answer to all of the other best cards. We have, Vault Scourge or Cranial Plating or Arcbound Ravager. Ancient Grudge good against all of them. We do have an update from the other side of the bracket. Brian Liu, he's our one Nyapod player, continuing his undefeated streak against Malayarpod. He has taken game 1 from Oscar Jones.
Nyapod? How is a deck with Glenelendra, Archmage, and Deceiver Exarch in it Naya? Their combo isn't even Naya.
I suppose
let's go with
Kiki-Pod. Yeah.
Oh yeah. All right. Nyapod, I guess. Kiki-Pod up a game, likely just from the fact that they can combo off a little faster and they dodge the Abrupt Decay. Yeah. Game 1 is usually the one that's best for them because after sideboarding, it's a little harder for them to go off once they have to deal with so many Path Exiles and Slaughter Packs.
All right, and we are underway here. Michael is on the play as he was in the first game. Last time we saw him make a land turn 1, and Vipin made 5 permanents, and that was Vipin stayed ahead from there. This time Michael has a decent start. He has 3 cards in Darksteel Citadel, Signal Pest, and Ornithopter.
Man, Paul Rietzel's got to be so proud right now.
So many friends. All right, can Vipin beat 3? Well, he has 3 of his own, 4 of his own, and a Thoughtcast. I'm going to say he outclasses here in Ornithopter, Memnite, Mox Opal, Darksteel Citadel, Thoughtcast, Draw 2, Signal Pest. So,
that, my friends, is a turn 1.
yeah, so that was 5 cards and a divination on turn 1.
Very, very effective. Every single card Michael played, and then 3 more.
I will tell you, when I've been playing Magic with some people who've just learned the game, and the first time they see Affinity is like still one of my favorite moments. You just like you keep a hand, and then you just start playing things, and there's like it's this whole what is going on moment.
Yeah, it is a nice little tour through spells that cost 0 and why they are so good for Magic.
All right, Michael makes some board presence of his own. He now commits a second Signal Pest and is able to Thought Cast on his own. But Vipin, once again, with the first aggression, this is because he has found Cranial Plating, and thanks to Mox Opal, is able to suit it up. Turn 2, crashes in with the team.
Now, it's interesting. If he had put in the plating on the Ornithopter, he would have been able to get through 1 extra point of damage because the Ornithopter wouldn't be able to eat 1 point of damage for free like it is now.
Yeah, and as we saw last game, those 1s really do add up. Right now, Memnite is 1 damage. It is 2 damage from Signal Pest. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is an 8-point swing from Memnite, quickly dropping Michael Sigrist down to 12.
Absolutely. He needs to draw an Ancient Grudge in a hurry.
And so the way you're saying it's like he kind of... So because Vipin hit first with plating, Michael's forced to be somewhat the control deck?
No, it's not even just the plating specifically. It's just the mix of cards. I mean, Vipin played a 1-mana draw 2 and a Mox Sapphire on the first turn. I mean, he just has had more mana and has drawn more cards. He's just winning on every axis here. He's got a better threat, a better board, more mana, more cards in hand, and more life to work with.
Yeah, we see Sigrist playing Arcbound. Looks like Arcbound Ravager for the turn. And having to pass back, he has no other colors of mana. He does have a Galvanic Blast in hand, cannot cast it. Even if he drew the Ancient Grudge you were rooting for, right now, it would be no help to him.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this earlier. Vipin's strategy of playing with 13 Moxes is super, super effective. Not that he actually has 13 Moxes, but just drawing Mox Opal is so influential in these decks.
That's the key to this matchup, is drawing Mox Opal. Or one of them.
That is one of the...
Yeah.
This is definitely a matchup, or a deck, I guess, with a lot of key cards, but having a good mix is more important than any one specific card.
All right. So I guess the question I'm wondering here, are we going to see a lethal attack this turn? And it looks like no. So Michael can eat 1 more attack. This is just Ornithopter and Signal Pest. Memnite is staying back to black. He doesn't want to swing into Arcbound Ravager.
Now remember, this is... I mean, Michael is much more in this than it may appear on the surface. Arcbound Ravager complicates the math quite a bit.
Yeah, Michael has the ability to block and sack for quite a while here if he chooses to. Well, sorry, I apologize there. Signal Pests, can't block flyers. They have like the treetop mechanic.
Correct. This is an Ornithopter chump or an Ornithopter trade, depending on which way Michael wants to do it. The other possibility, of course, is the Ornithopter could pick up some Ravager counters and then eat the Signal Pest free and clear. The problem with this, of course, is that then Michael's down with no Ravager.
Yeah, and you said the Ravager is huge here. He does have a replacement Ravager in his hand, so that might be something we see.
One advantage, if he would have gone that route, is getting the Ornithopter to a 2 power. If he eats one of the Signal Pests with the Ravager, he could then eat the Signal Pest for free, and next turn have an Ornithopter that's threatening to trade with Vipin's Ornithopter.
It looks like he just took the damage, however, so he is down to 4. Remember, Vipin does play 4 Galvanic Blasts, so he's got to watch out here.
Yeah, this is definitely a precarious position for Michael, but he doesn't really have a lot of options at the moment. He's trying to give himself as much material to work with as possible on the board. And now he's going to have to deal with half a dozen attackers next turn. The only saving grace is that Vipin doesn't have a second black mana yet to move the plating around at instant speed.
Yeah, right now we see a Memnite and a Vault Scourge added for Vipin, so he has 2 Memnites, a Vault Scourge, a Signal Pest, an Ornithopter, and the ability to activate 2 Nexus on his turn. Granted, those Nexus deal infect damage, so they're not as potent, but still far more attackers than Michael can block.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is he has Glimmer Void. That's a start. Hopefully he can use Glimmer Void and Galvanic Blast together to buy himself 1 more draw phase in which he sure hopes he draws Ancient Grudge and can try to claw back into this game. There's no racing. There's nothing else to it. He's going to have to Ancient Grudge next turn.
And I mean, this is where the going to 4 may come back to get him. This ancient, the land to cast Galvanic Blast was really key here. The problem is because he's at 4, these little creatures plus Battle Cry, that's already lethal again. So, that one removal spell just really isn't enough.
Well, I think the key is that Ornithopter chumping the other one, or Ornithopter killing the other Ornithopter, and a Galvanic Blast on the Signal Pest means that there isn't actually a lethal army coming in.
All right, so it's possible Sigrist can stabilize here. He has Pair of Ravagers. That's very strong in the matchup. Remember, though, it is...
This is huge.
That's huge. I was gonna say he's one a Galvanic Blast away from dead. This Arcbound Ravager cast from Vipin, though, will complicate things mightily.
I think this is gonna just devastate Michael's position because he can't even respond with a Galvanic Blast, or else the Ravager makes any unblocked creature lethal, and either the Signal Pest or the Ornithopter or the Vault Scourge will be unblocked. So he can't respond, and if he waits, Vipin doesn't have to actually use the Ravager. He can attack with his whole team. Michael can live through the attack.
Barely.
But if he does, his entire board will be decimated.
So Vipin's just going to swing the Flyers, or the pseudo-Flyers. We see Ornithopter, Vault Scourge, and Signal Pest swinging in. And I think this is exactly what you said. He can't use the Galvanic Blast, because if he does, Vipin will win by throwing Ravager counters onto something else.
Now we are into a game of chicken. It looks like Michael is gonna have to. He's just gonna Galvanic Blast.
I mean, he can't do that. He's gonna lose when he tries to do that.
He might. Yeah. The trade here might be he just hopes that Vipin makes a misplay.
And Vipin sees Galvanic Blast and couldn't react sooner. And he's asking who Michael's gonna block. Well,
now
surprise.
I think he was hoping that Vipin would use the Ravager to put counters on the Ornithopter and keep it.
Oh. Well, that's not.
Yep.
You have 2 more. It shows us.
That is 2-0 for
Vipin.
2-0 for Vipin for Chackonal.
So
advancing to the finals of Grand Prix Richmond.
All right, so a pretty good display there by Vipin and the Mirror. Both games jumping out to an early lead, making more plays.